Hello, it is 5 a.m. in Washington. It's 10 a.m. here in London. I'm Monita Rajpal.
And I'm Zain Verjee. You're watching World One live from London.
At today's summit, they'll be discussing the process of change as well as how to get aid to the people of Libya. We want to get more now from CNN's international security correspondent, Paula Newton. She's outside 10 Downing Street in London. Paula.
Monita, leaders here will be meeting in a few hours, and certainly what they want to do is stress the fact that they're going to speak with one voice.
That's really interesting because all the communiques have been coming out, the reports have been coming out, have been talking about that military operations would continue as long as civilians were under threat from any sort of attack. Adding on to what Mr. Hague was saying, though, we understand that Mr. Cameron, the British Prime Minister, along with France's President Nicolas Sarkozy, had issued a statement saying that military airstrikes would continue even if Colonel Gaddafi would ask for a ceasefire because they just don't trust him.
Well, that's definitely been going back. When they say a ceasefire, they are speaking not just to Colonel Gaddafi and his allies, they are speaking to the military. And Monita, NATO officials told me quite clearly.
Colonel Gaddafi has called for a halt to what he called a, quote, barbaric offensive in Libya, meaning the airstrikes by coalition forces. NATO will take full command of those operations on Wednesday, and we can speak now to a former commander and the former chief of the British Army, General Sir Mike Jackson. Sir Jackson, thank you very much for being with us. There's just been so much confusion, I guess, as to what has been described as a murky agreement by all in terms of what is actually happening over the airs and what the actual mission is for NATO when it comes to protecting civilians. We understand that NATO's job is to enforce the no-fly zone, but they also say that they will do what they can to protect civilians. What does that mean when the battle then happens on the ground?
Well, the UN Security Council Resolution 1973 is very clear. It says all necessary measures.
Before I let you go, what would be considered, in your mind, a successful operation there in Libya?
Well, I think we need to think outside of day-to-day events on the ground.
You see, workers at Japan's Fukushima nuclear plant face a tough balancing act. They are trying to keep the reactors cool by dousing them with water, but that brings a risk that contaminated water will spill out into the ocean. The radiation warning comes a day after news that the containment structure surrounding one reactor is damaged. Workers found small amounts of plutonium that have leaked out from the reactor core. Hello, this year's CNN is throwing light on the dark world of slavery in the modern world with our Freedom Project.
Yeah, it's an initiative that we've launched to try and help expose an inhuman trade that continues even in the 21st century. Now, we know that it's not a problem we can solve just with CNN's coverage alone, but we want to put it firmly in the spotlight with the stories and interviews that we're showing you that you're not going to see anywhere else.
Yeah, the next report is kind of the thing that we're talking about. Becky Anderson has been finding out about the lives of women forced into the sex trade in India and meeting some of the people trying to help. As NATO and the coalition meet here in London, we want to take a look at what world newspapers are saying about their strategy in Libya. Here in the UK, The Guardian's headline is narrowing the options. The paper goes on to say the main issue before them is to decide at what point NATO action ceases to be about protecting civilians from Gaddafi and begins to be about prosecuting a war on behalf of Libyan insurgents. In the United Arab Emirates, the national paper there says as Libyan crisis deepens, West's role must grow. It goes on to say a more aggressive military strategy may not be what the international community had in mind. The longer Colonel Gaddafi stays put, however, this is a question that will be strenuously debated. And finally, Gulf News with the headline, Clever Brains, Not Smart Bombs. The paper says the longer this goes on, the coalition's resolve is likely to crack. U.S. President Barack Obama, with the albatrosses of Iraq and Afghanistan around his neck, is an unwilling war president. And Japanese officials are concerned that more contaminated water will leak from the Fukushima nuclear plant as efforts to cool down its overheating reactors go on. The plant owner says small amounts of plutonium have also been found close to the reactors. Martin Savage joins us now from CNN Tokyo with the latest on that. Martin.
Hello, Monita. Well, you're right. The plutonium issue came to light overnight, actually, here Tokyo time. And the issue has been that they have discovered in 5 different places out there at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear facility, cool the reactors, but not so much that it floods into the ocean.
Martin, as all of this comes out, little bits of information that we get, little developments here and there that we're getting from Fukushima, how is this playing out in the rest of the country? In Tokyo, where you are, how are the, I guess, Japanese looking at what's happening there, you know, hundreds of miles away, as to what possible dangers they may be facing or feeling?
Well, it's not the panic stage that it was, say, 10 days ago, when people clearly had apparently stayed indoors or left the city altogether. You do find that Tokyo is more back to normal.
Welcome back. This is World One, live from London. We've got a pretty interesting story for you. An Egyptian cobra missing from a zoo has become a bit of a social media star. The venomous snake now has a Twitter page, of course, so that people can follow her adventures. Now, she's on the loose after disappearing from her enclosure at New York's Bronx Zoo on Saturday. Staff at the zoo think the cobra is hiding out somewhere in the reptile building and will come out when she feels safe. The spoof Twitter account at Bronx Zoo's cobra was set up around 16 hours ago and already has more than 20,000 followers. And look at some of these sample tweets here. So the first one saying, you know, the very first tweet, "I want to thank those animals from the movie Madagascar. They were a real inspiration." The next one, "Gonna listen to some jazz tonight. You know I love some great flute work. Do they provide it, or is it bring your own basket?" And another one here, just another sample of the tweets that they're getting. "It's getting pretty cold out. I think it's probably time to crash. Oh, look, an apartment window someone left open just a crack. Perfect." So, of course, just to some of the sample items that we've got there from that page. We've got a link on our Facebook page if you want to read more about the missing cobra. You know, you're not anyone unless you've got a Twitter page, right, Zain?
Yeah, and that missing cobra has got more Twitter followers than I have got in 2 years. Not long to go now. You're watching World One, live from London. I'm Zain Verjee.
I'm Monita Rajpal. Thank you for watching CNN.